Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life, aka Trash Shelf Radio. This is episode number 225 at scavengerlife.com.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people who were not in on when we were talking about being trash shelves.
Well,
that's what we are.
Basically, it's a good nickname for scavengers.
AKA scavengers, yeah. And we hope that you're, either photographing or listing or packing right now, because this is the time to do it. This is like, holiday a season. It might not feel like it, but holiday a season is basically here.
Let's hope.
Anything you want to sell should be listed,
Yes.
The sooner the better. Although, we just keep going. We list and then we don't stop a listing. So, that's a way to do it.
And we list it and forget it.
Yep. And if you've chosen to sell on eBay as your profession, you've found the right people. That's who we are.
We're very professional. Yes.
Yeah, so we do this pretty much full time. I mean, we sell full time. We aren't always working on it full time, but
we sell full time.
That's kind of what we talk about, is like how to manage your life as an eBay person, seller,
Yeah.
So what did we do this past week, Ryan?
So I listed a bunch of stuff. I photographed some high-end jewelry.
Yep.
That we got in New York at sample sales.
Yep.
It was a little bit nerve-wracking to do that, but I did.
Yep. Yeah, so, our house is almost clean of death piles.
Yes.
That's number one. Our office is
getting very close to being clean. Because there were piles of clothes.
So that's what we did this week, was we were photographing and listing stuff.
Yeah.
And one of those things was when we were in New York back in August, we talked about like a little adventure we had finding sample sales, which are like, these like jewelry and like designer stores.
Well, clothes mostly, but we went to a jewelry one.
They'll sell, I guess, I don't know why they call them samples, but they just have like extra inventory.
Well, I think it's because they make special things for either runway shows or it's stuff that they use to show the designers, like, here's a sample of what we could make.
Right.
I mean, that is what I bought.
So we found this really cool, like, it's one of these companies that makes jewelry for the big designers.
Right.
And we actually spent, about $600 on
I think it was less than that, but it was pretty high.
So we finally got around to listing that stuff.
Yeah.
And some of it we put up for like its necklace we put up for $3,500.
Yeah. This necklace, it was a prototype for Tory Burch. And the prototype, the original piece that was produced for Tory Burch used resin and bamboo, but the prototype actually used real coral, real vintage coral, like antique coral, not like newly harvested stuff, which you can't sell. And that's a very expensive material.
Right.
So I put it up for $3,500.
And we'll just see if there are Tory Burch collectors out there that want like the original
piece.
Prototype. So anyway, those are the things for us that keep us interested in selling on eBay. We have all of our bread and butter items that we're always finding at thrift stores, shoes and clothes and little trinkets and stuff like that. But it's fun to go out and try an adventure and find different and new stuff.
Yeah.
We have no idea if this is going to sell for anywhere close to what we want.
Right.
But that's part of the adventure, and that's what keeps us interested in doing this.
Yeah, it's fun. And the cool thing, part of the reason I priced a couple of these necklaces really high is they're the only ones available online, because these were from like the 2012 collections of both these designers. There's another one by Leela Rose. I felt like since there's no other place you can buy them, that obviously clearly made it more rare. So we'll see what happens.
And again, we've been selling since 2008, and I personally have learned quite a bit, and I can go and I can find and scavenge different kinds of things. I'm building up it's knowledge where I can walk into any kind of thrift store now, or estate sale or a yard sale, and I can always find something to sell. But like these are times where like we walk into this like jewelry factory and like I'm totally out of my element.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like,
we were, yeah.
Who's Tory Burch? You know,
yeah.
like what's, you know,
I'm glad I knew who Tory Burch was.
I can't tell the difference between like nice costume jewelry that costs a lot. Because costume jewelry, in my mind, has always meant like
cheap stuff,
junk, like the kind that little, you know, little kids wear.
Right.
But you know, now I know that costume jewelry, like there's
it's
super
high end,
expensive, high
exactly.
end. And so
basically, costume jewelry is can be like non-precious gems. Like it's not diamonds, but it is still high end.
So I'm glad that you were there, because I wouldn't have even been in that room if you didn't have the confidence to be able to somehow at least work in there. But it's cool. There was a woman there who owned the business.
Yeah.
And she was very patient. And
she was so
like,
sweet.
Telling us stories and explaining how it worked and how her clients work, how like there will be like a rich wife of a rich guy who will just decide she wants to have a jewelry line and will just come in with some like pictures of stuff she wants, and then they'll make it for her, and then this rich lady now has a jewelry line.
And like we were like, what?
That's how it works. Like, that's how we think it works.
Well, you go to a manufacturer, and she's a manufacturer, and but the interesting thing about it was, for us, it was overwhelming because we were like, we don't know what to buy, what will sell, and what we did, which is what we do with everything we do. We bought stuff we thought looked cool.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
Like, I saw the Tory Burch, and I was like, that's a beautiful piece. That looks like real coral. She's like, yep, it's Tory Burch. I was like, I'm buying that. Yep. You know? So that was it. It wasn't like you had to figure out what sells. It was like, well, what do I think looks cool for my customers, you know?
So those were kind of the highlights of our week, is really just we were working, doing eBay, and those were like some of the things we were doing. It was interesting. eBay one evening, I think it was Thursday night, went down for
a couple hours.
Seemed like a couple hours.
I mean, we couldn't access our accounts, and as soon as that happened, we knew that, okay, someone's going to comment on the blog, so we know it's not just us, and that happened like 5 minutes later. You know,
and we were just watching a movie, and we knew it'd come back. Came back, and something sold that evening.
Yeah, so that was
all
good.
fine. It's just...
it's the scary feeling of, is my account gone? And you're like, there's no way.
Well, I mean, that's just where I guess you can either think, okay, eBay is this really horrible place. It's trying to ruin my life. And this is another example. Or it's just like, you know, they're a big corporation. This is how they make, they make a lot of money doing this. And, you have to have confidence. They have people behind the scenes that know it's what they're doing. And I think
this is their business too. It's not just you.
They do. And they're trying to do that seller hub and, I mean, like we always say, we honestly can only do our part, and that's like find cool stuff and put it online. If I worry too much more about anything else, like eBay corporate headquarters, I'll drive myself crazy.
And then you have no control over that,
and there are definitely those people online. It's interesting too. This is a totally different topic. We've talked about how we've redone these houses, and some of the stuff we've done is we've gone in and scavenged wood and other pieces from houses being torn down or buildings being torn down. Right. And we love doing that. I found 2 shows on TV or on Netflix that are about that. One's called Salvage Dogs and one's called Barnwood Builders. You know what's interesting about these shows, just real quick? Salvage Dogs is in Virginia and Barnwood Builders is in West Virginia. So it's so I love watching those shows because I'm like, that's all the stuff that we look for too, because they're right in our area. Probably because most of those kind of houses, like these are shows where it's like teams of guys go in and tear down old buildings and like scavenge all the stuff. All the cool parts. I mean, they're us. Yeah. They're you, like they're just, instead of getting old shoes, they're just getting like old mantles and like beams and it's really cool, and old light fixtures. I think it's because our area is so hot, because I think up north, I'll bet a lot of that stuff has already been picked over. Yeah, maybe in the 80s and it's 90s. Yeah, but now it's moving down south. Yeah, so also like
I mean, and we've looked at some of these old houses when we look at real estate. People that are like our grandparents' age who have died lived in those houses in that condition.
Right.
I mean, in the South, just poor Southern people, I mean, they're living in these houses that don't have indoor plumbing. I mean, that is real in the South still. In the North, I don't think that's so much.
Dying off.
Yeah,
so
right.
These
So these 90-year-old women who lived in a house and had a hand-pumped well their whole life, well, they just died.
Right.
And that stuff, like, we'll walk into houses that we're looking at and we're like, that's the original light fixture from the 1900s. Like, that is the one.
And then kids inherit it, and they're just like,
they just think it's junk. You know?
We're not going to redo this house.
But these companies, and we know of one in a town nearby, they will bid on the house, and they'll go and they'll take anything they can. The floorboards, the mantle, and the light fixtures.
Part of me, it's part of my, my obsessiveness. I get so excited by it because I'm like, thank God there's like people doing
saving
that,
it,
like instead of just tearing it down and throwing it in a landfill, they're pulling out these really beautiful pieces of wood and
I mean, we're
doors.
We're not like super huge on reality TV, but these two shows are fun, and I think you can find I think they're both on Netflix. Salvage Dogs and Barnwood Builders. They're really fun.
Yeah, it just it just shows there's all kinds of different kind of scavengers and who are making a living doing this
in different ways.
Okay, and then another thing I want to talk about this week was, because this has kind of come up in our lives recently.
Okay.
He's
staring at me.
As scavengers, we're all about being frugal. Because we live this life because we live really cheap. So we can pay for our lives by selling scavenged stuff. If we lived really expensive lives, I don't know if we can make enough money to cover ourselves. So anyway, but there is a difference between being cheap and finding its value in something. Yeah. And so it's what I mean is, it's never for us great to pay a lot of money for something. Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes it's a bummer being too cheap.
Right. You learn your lesson pretty quick.
Like, it's possible that sometimes buying the cheapest thing is not the best thing. Right. Like, ultimately, you're going to lose money or time.
Right. Right.
Did you ever have that struggle, Ryan, where you're like not wanting to spend the money to do something that we need to do?
Yeah, absolutely, all the time. Yeah. Every time I make a decision that's based on money, I do that. Are you kidding me? Yes.
Well, like, okay, so for example, like I can remember, the way we, rent, like, it's motels now is different than the way it used to be. Yeah. A couple of years ago, we would always stay in the cheapest motel we could find. Right. When we were traveling around. Right. And then there's that one time we stayed in Charlottesville. We stayed in like,
oh my God,
it was like a roadside motel, which it turned out was probably like kind of like
it was like a crack hotel.
It was like a meth hotel, I guess. And I remember like waking up in the middle of the night to like a couple beside us just screaming, like having like a dragged out fight.
Yeah, it was like 3 a.m.
It was super scary.
Yeah, it was really scary. And that was one of those moments where we were like, oh yeah, this is why you pay, $80 to $100 for a hotel instead of $50 for a hotel on the side of the road. Yeah, we definitely learned our lesson.
I mean, I remember when I first moved to New York, and I went to one of those dollar stores, and I bought like a pack of razors to shave my face. Yeah, it was like $1 for like 10 razors. Yeah, like, great, it's a good deal. Then I go home and I started to shave it with them, and it's just like they're so dull. They're like cutting my face, and I had to throw them all away because
Yeah, you're like, I didn't save myself any.
The value of it was just bad.
Right. Exactly.
And I find that too for this rental we have. I mean, like...
Yeah. Yes.
There have been times when we kind of skimp on something because we want to be cheap, and we realize, like, that's not a good idea.
Or you are like, that's good enough. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, no, that's fine. And then whatever that thing was just gets destroyed. Right. And you're like, oh, that was not fine. Right.
And I guess I only bring this up is when we price things on eBay, we kind of think the same way. Yeah. Like, we don't always want to be the cheapest. because we understand there are people out there that are thinking like we do. Like when they want an item, they aren't just always going to go and get the cheapest thing.
Right.
They're going to first probably sort by price, but then they're going to start to go through those items and see, okay, this is more expensive, but it's nicer.
It's nicer. And it's funny.
It's in better shape.
A lot of times we'll get offers too, and people will say, you guys totally have had this experience, this guy's selling the same thing for $18, but yours is $40. And they'll even say, and I've had people say this, but yours is in nicer shape. And you're like, that's why it's $40, bro. Like, it's just funny that, like, they should realize, and people who, aren't dumb, realize that. They're like, oh, this one's in better shape. The person took more time to give me more details, and they're going to ship in one day. That's why it's $40, not $18.
So, I don't know. I was just thinking about that in our own lives when we buy stuff. I think we're now tending towards being willing to pay more for items. Yes. Knowing we'll either get better quality or more its value out of something rather than just buying the cheapest thing.
Like, here's the deal. We had to replace the electronic locks on the farmhouse. One of the locks that I bought a couple of years ago to put on the front door, because I didn't have a lock for that, I bought a used one. And I installed it. It was ready to go. And either it was broken or now I'm thinking I might have installed it wrong, but whatever. At that time, I was like, why did I buy a used one? I should have just bought a brand new one. This is super important to my house. So last week, we had to replace 3 locks. They cost $100 each for those locks. Not if you buy them used on eBay, but Jay especially was like, do not buy used locks. You need brand new locks that are ready to go. And so I went on Amazon and I paid full price. And you know what? I feel so much better about that.
Right.
I'm like, these are brand new. They're ready to go. Yep. They're fine, So that's something where you're like, it's very important that this is a high quality, item that's working.
Yep.
So I definitely learned my lesson on that.
Yep.
It took a while.
Okay, so this week, our eBay sales, they feel quiet.
Yes.
Quieter than they should be. And other people were commenting on the blog like they were not having a lot of sales. Why aren't people buying?
Yep.
I don't know. It is what it is. And, and it's sometimes, and I know that, especially earlier in the week, it sometimes is difficult to get motivated to, work on eBay when your sales aren't doing very well.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say this, I keep thinking, why is it slow? Why is it slow? And then I heard something on the radio. I was on Marketplace on NPR, and they were like, the economy, people are being super cautious about the economy. And I don't know if that, translates to retail. If
it absolutely does.
Yeah, so, but it's so direct and it's so quick. It's like sales just feel so slow. And I'm like, is it because people are like, I don't want to spend money. I need to pay my electric bill. That's more important than buying, shoes on eBay.
Right. But like we always say, the only solution is just to make sure we're working hard and we're working smart. And that's the only way. So we're going to come to Ryan's favorite part. That's doing the numbers for this week.
I'll never hear the end of it.
Okay, so this week in our flagship store, we sold 27 items for about $1,100, $1,140 to be exact.
Yeah.
So not too bad. Our average price was about $42. And that's nice. I feel like over the past a year or two, we've been able to maintain
higher
$40
average.
to $50 average, which is nice. That's one thing we wanted to do. And you listed, it's 56 items in that store.
Cool.
In our second store, our experimental store, we sold 9 items for about $300.
Yeah, that's all right.
And, our average price there was about $30 because we're really more focusing on kind of lower dollar items in that store. Not completely, but, And you listed 33 items in that store.
Pretty good.
So pretty good. So overall, we did sell a couple things on Bonanza, but I didn't really put those numbers in here because it's just one or two
They're usually
things.
pretty low, yeah.
So we made about $1,400 total this week, which
that's good.
in the end, no matter how quiet it felt, we were averaging about $200 a day.
That's good. It just, you know what? This is what it is. When sales are spread out so much,
right.
and then there were a lot of high-ish dollar item sales, but it feels like less volume. So
right.
it's like this weird conundrum where you're like, no, we made good money,
right.
but it didn't feel like
That's
it.
That's why you got to do that.
I know.
So, we did have those days where we made like $50, but then there are other days where we made like $500.
Right.
So that's why it's good to see the average. So we were making about $200 a day.
Yeah.
And it's for us, if we can always make $200 a day,
You're good. Yeah.
No one should be unhappy.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's grateful. I want to make more.
Yeah.
But that's more than pays for our bills.
Yeah.
And that gives us extra money too.
Yeah.
To pay off debt or whatever we want.
Exactly.
Okay, things we sold. Okay, this is a fun stuff. The only reason why we talk about this is because really this is why we sell on eBay. It's just fun to find things that other people think are trash and to sell them and to know that someone else sees what we saw,
Right.
And it's like,
yes, I want that. Yeah.
And that's what makes it like a big treasure hunt, And Ryan always does a video, not always, but most times does a video on Wednesdays where we actually show in videos a lot of this stuff.
If we're in town, I make the video. If we're traveling, I can't, but yes.
So it was something cool we sold this week.
Okay, so this was interesting because I listed it and it sold the next day. So you had, you actually had 3 Silverado truck emblems. That's a Chevy truck emblem.
Yeah. Pickup truck.
Yeah. So it was there's Silverado 10, and then you had one that was a Silverado 20. So the Silverado 10s sold for $36 each, $36.99 each. So about $80.
And he bought 2 of them.
He bought 2. He bought the pair of Silverado 10s.
And so I bought all 3 of those for $5 at a flea market.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Oh my God.
But
that's how long they've been sitting on the porch.
But these were in our piles of death. We have these, and so that's just one of those things where we had money just sitting there on our porch, but finally we got motivated enough to actually start working into there. We made some money.
Yeah, it was good. So another sale, we had these antique picture frames that, now that I look at them, are freaking huge. They're like 31 inches by 27 inches. That's
it's more
large.
Like an art frame.
Yeah, like a painting.
Like you would see in an old Victorian home.
Yeah.
Like really ornate, really beautiful.
Right. So the only issue with this one is there's a plaster coating around part of it that's painted like it's wood. And it's got a big chunk taken out of it. So whatever, I had it up for $150 or something. Someone offered $70, and we were like, we have had these for so long.
Because again, we've had those for like
2.5 years or something.
And we bought those at an auction one day
for nothing.
No one wanted them. We know why.
We just thought they were cool, whatever. So, but the issue with this one, this was an issue, is they didn't pay. I had to open an unpaid item case, and then a day later they paid. Yeah. It's a pain.
Now, we have another one, too. Did you email them and tell them we have another one?
I forgot to do that.
Oh, my God.
Ugh, I'll do it.
Oh, my God.
You do it.
Oh, my
yeah,
God.
I do. I need to.
We also sold a meat cleaver for $50.
That was a good sale.
And that's just,
meat cleaver. That's a great
We always
price.
like to sell stuff like that. Just like, ever since we talked to...
A vintage meat cleaver.
Yeah, ever since we did the interview with Mr. Customer Service.
And he said, I sell knives. And we were like, what are you talking about?
He's like, yeah, you just go and you look where all the
yeah. Everybody thinks it's garbage. They're like, what, a pile of knives? You're like, oh no.
Yep.
There is money in those
So
piles.
we definitely learn from people.
So another cool sale that was on the last video, because I do the videos in between weeks, was $100 for an old compact. It's a makeup compact that has like blush in it or whatever. So that was an amazing sale, $100 for that.
But it was cool though because it had these like mid-century cats on the front.
Yeah, they were definitely mid-century, and they had it was like enamel. It was really amazing.
And we bought that actually this year. So actually in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Where we were actually going to the dump. in our county to take our trash, and there was a yard sale right down the street from us, and it was this old couple that I guess had an antique.
They had an antique booth,
and they were clearing it out, so they were just.
So they had all these
stuff.
like antique-y stuff,
and they had like these crazy prices on everything. But he was like, those prices don't.
Yeah, those were the antique booth prices.
What we're doing now. So I think we bought it for $3 or something.
Yeah, it's $2 or $3 per compact. I got like 2 other compacts with it.
And we sold it for $100.
Yeah, it was great. Another pair of shoes sold, $135 for Bally men's shoes. They looked like they practically had never been worn.
And we always tell people that's why estate sales are good. I know people like to complain about the prices of estate sales. Okay, so sometimes estate sales can be expensive, sometimes they don't. But things we always go to the closets.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people skip those, and a lot of people are just buying shoes for themselves.
Right.
But we go and we'll buy any shoes, and very often we can, get a big bin of shoes and get a price for all of them.
Right.
So, we also sold a pair of Ferragamos.
Yeah, so I sold a pair of Ferragamos to some super high-end lady in New York, because I looked up her address. She lived on Park Ave, right?
Wow.
She lived...
She's buying on eBay?
Yeah, I was like, what? But she lived facing Central Park. It was like Central Park South or something.
So
I'm like, what are you doing? But she paid full price, $160 for a pair of Ferragamos.
And it seems like every other week we sell a pair of these high-end Ferragamos because this summertime we listed about 20 pairs that we had gotten at various estate sales.
Yeah.
And, that it's like our Ferragamo pipeline.
I don't know. It's funny. We just find them at estate sales in people's closets.
And then last we sold, and these are just kind of items we're just kind of plucking out. We sold a Coogie sweater.
Yeah.
Coogie.
And
it seems like a lot of people have been talking about these lately. We bought this at a bag sale.
Yeah, we paid nothing for it.
It wasn't very special. Like, it wasn't one of the really colorful kinds.
People like the colorful. This one was like a beige and white. Right,
because the colorful ones is like, Cosby.
Or Biggie Smalls.
Yeah, Biggie Smalls, they're really... This is just more like beige, and it was cotton.
Yeah, but we sold it for $80.
Yep.
We bought it for like 10 cents or something. Yeah. So that's a good turnaround. Yep. So customer issues. So one of the offers we got this week was $125 on a mid-century lamp, which we were thrilled to get. Yay, we sold a lamp, $100. Guy never paid.
Yep.
I relisted it this morning.
And it's like one of those tough ones. It was like early in the week when it was really slow or quiet. And, it was like one of those sales where it kind of saved our day.
Yeah.
But then ultimately it didn't pan out. And, we message him, we do the unpaid item, and this, I don't know if it's a guy or girl. I'm imagining it's a guy.
It's a guy, I think.
And he just ignored it, and I don't know. It's so interesting. Do people, he did buy it, or did do the offer at 3 a.m., so I always think, And
he was on the East Coast, so we know it was 3 a.m.
He realized, he didn't really want this thing, or he was drunk or something.
Yeah, it's one of those. So I had a neutral feedback recently, and a bunch of people were like, and eBay included, said, send a feedback revision request and ask the buyer, because the buyer was happy with the shoes.
They were just complaining they got it late because
USPS had some weird rerouting or something. And the guy changed the feedback. I couldn't believe it.
Yep.
So that was amazing.
It's our first time since 2008 anyone's ever done it. Now, granted, we've only tried it a handful of times.
Because mostly people aren't complaining about the shipping. They're complaining about the item.
Right.
So you can't,
Yeah.
But so that was really cool that happened.
And then we also got a return this week. It's one of those ones that could be a lot of drama in our lives, and it was like about a 10% drama because it's never good. So we sold a pair of Ferragamo shoes. It was one of the ones we had sold a couple of weeks ago, and it was the one that has the it bows on it, like a logo bow.
Yeah,
and she got it and said that the bows fell off.
Yeah,
and so it was. I will take all its responsibility for this. We were working in San Francisco.
We were very distracted.
I got her a message, and I was like, well, we'll give you a $20 refund, and you can have them glued. At
the shoe shop, professionally.
The problem is I didn't say at the shoe shop. I said you can have them glued.
Yeah.
And so we didn't hear back from her. I was like, great. Then she messaged back and said, okay, I tried to glue them on, but then I wore them out and I lost one of the bows. So I'm just going to mail them back to you, and I want a full refund. And,
yeah, it sucks.
We tried to call eBay and say, we offered a refund to have them fixed, but instead she lost part of the shoe, and that's her fault, and we can't take a return for something we can't sell.
They don't care. eBay does not care.
And they said that we weren't clear enough in the fact that she needed to get them professionally fixed. So anyway, we lost out on that sale plus the shipping, and I just remember when that box came, I came to you and said, give her an immediate refund now, and let's forget this. Yeah. Let's not talk about it.
It's just got to be done.
Sometimes you do this thing where you let it sit there.
Yeah, I know. Because you don't want to give the money. It sits at my desk. I'm like, ugh. But so this was the lesson. The lesson was what we should have done the minute she said the bows fell off. We should have said just send them back. Yeah. Because then I can repair them properly or have them repaired, and then we sell them again for $100. But now I have a shoe with a bow and a shoe without a bow.
Yeah. It's trash.
It's just like actual garbage that I have to throw away.
Well, I actually looked to see on eBay if people just sold the bows themselves.
I can't find any.
And and that's an interesting thing to think about now. So maybe we've learned a good thing. Every once in a while, we'll find a pair of Ferragamos that are just in too
take the bow
a roughest shape. I wonder if you could take the bows off and just sell the bows.
I will tell you this. I woke up this morning and I thought, I'm going to email Ferragamo and see what they say. If they will send me replacement bows or if they have a supplier that you can buy them from. Right. I'm just curious, I'm like, how do I fix this? They must stand by their product. We'll see. I don't know. I'll keep people updated about that. But for now, the other thing too is what you can do is you can get things that go on top of shoes. Not a Ferragamo bow, but I could get some other covering, and it's a Ferragamo shoe with a different they're called shoe clips, so that could be something that I could try as well, because they're nice shoes, and actually they're a size 8, which is a rare size to find in Ferragamos. Like they fit me practically. So
okay, we won't dwell on this too much, but we do have a rental property that is a part of our income now.
Yes,
and it's a part of our income because our eBay income basically is paid for our rentals. So now it's kind of intertwined in our lives. And so this week, one day, we actually blocked off the days, and we actually went over there with our handyman, and we did a lot of maintenance. And we, like Ryan said earlier, we changed the locks on it.
Now, I will say this. Changing locks is an easy thing, but putting deadbolts in doors that don't have the hole for the deadbolt is a whole other project. So that was why it was so big.
That's why we got a pro to do it.
To drill the holes in.
He had all the equipment.
Yeah.
And, we fixed a bunch of other stuff it's my phone. I have an iPhone, and there's the notes. It's notes. I'm always taking notes of stuff to fix.
Yeah.
And so we got through that whole thing.
Yeah, it was really good.
And, it's pretty amazing how a little damage we've encountered in 8 months of
very minimal.
Renting the place.
Very minimal.
Yeah. The worst was some bacon grease we talked about on the ceiling.
I had to repaint part of the ceiling.
Hand marks on the wall. But
that's and we just have to remember that's basic wear and tear. That is just... Lots of people staying at our house all the time.
And it's good that we're keeping up on it.
Yeah.
Something kind of exciting to us was last night we actually had 2 young couples come. They were in their 20s. Mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
Young professionals.
And they were so cute because they were so excited to be in the country. Most people are like, yay, we're excited to be here. And they were like, this is so cool. They were just like, we're so glad to be out of the city. It was so cute.
And they were just psyched to, I think they just appreciated what we had done.
Yeah.
It was funny. They were our perfect guests because... They appreciated all the little details.
Well, in the soapstone sink, they walked in. We're like, we were so excited to see a picture of a soapstone sink. We're like, this is great. Yep. This is our fantasy people. But you can hear us talk more about that at our other podcast, which is called Shampoo and Booze. ShampooandBooze.com.
Yep.
We talk very extensively about our rental, so you can hear us blab on over there.
So some news we wanted to share. We wanted to remind people that if you're full-time doing eBay, or even part-time, and you don't have health care, that it's now, starting right now, open enrollment for healthcare.gov starts
today.
And again, let's be very clear here, because we're all educated people. This is not to get insurance from the government. You're just going through healthcare.gov to connect to and to see different prices of private insurance
in your state, state by state.
And the other good thing is, if you make under a certain amount, you can get a subsidy to help offset your insurance costs. So we just encourage everyone, if you don't have insurance,
check it
Number
out.
one, you got to get it anyway.
Yeah, you have to.
But it might be cheaper than you think, and it's a good thing. The other thing I wanted to mention was it's Martin over at garbagefinds.com. We've interviewed him for this podcast. It's before.
Yes, we love Garbage Finds.
He's one of my favorite scavengers. He's up in it's Montreal, and he goes around and he scavenges in
the garbage. Really, kicking garbage cans, opening garbage bags.
Basically, he's got like a whole network of neighborhoods where he knows when the trash days are, and he can tell when like houses are being cleaned out, and he finds the most amazing stuff. He's got a great blog. It seems like at least twice a week he's documenting in detail the things he finds, and it's very exciting.
Yeah.
He finds amazing stuff, and he now has been selling more and more on eBay, which we always loved to see, and so he's evolved. But anyway, he actually finally got a ticket from the
city?
A city. Well, it's actually, he's got a whole blog post about it at garbagefinds.com, but like, it's not illegal in a city itself, but different like neighborhoods can have their own little local laws.
Yeah.
And I guess in this one neighborhood there is a law against it, and so he is busted for it. He got a $220 ticket.
So did the cops like come up to him?
Yeah.
Or, like,
yeah.
Wow.
He talks about it where it's like a bit of a cat and mouse game, right? And he got caught. So anyway, he got a $220 ticket. So I only bring that up because I really like him. I think he does a good service to other scavengers.
Yes.
And so I actually donated, he's got a donate page, $20 to him to help him pay off
the
his
ticket.
thing. So I'm going to put that link on our blog.
Good.
And if you read his blog and you appreciate what he does, throw him some money. Plus, he's in Canada, so the American dollar goes
a long way.
So,
it's worth more.
Give him $10, and it's like whatever, $12 in his money.
That's good.
And just help him, So something we added to the website, because it kind of been in all different places, we're going to put it in one place. So people have, sometimes they email us, they thank us for having the blog, and they want to help us. So we're now having a place called Help Us,
Help Yourself,
Help Yourself.
Yes.
Basically, it's like these are services that we use, and if you choose to use them as well, you'll probably get some money out of it. We get a little bit of money out of it, and it just helps everyone. So things like, we'll have the Airbnb link up there, and so if you rent through Airbnb, you get $25 off at your rental. We get a $25 little fee. Ting,
which is our phone service, which we love.
There's just different things there, and so
I wanted to specifically mention there is an eBay link and an Amazon link. Those are our affiliate links. But what happens if you click through to eBay or Amazon on those links and you're shopping? Sometimes I go shopping on Amazon for a big list, and those affiliate links will help us. Like, you're just going to spend your regular money on eBay or Amazon, but they'll give us a little kickback, a little tiny percentage for basically sending you to those sites. So if you know you're going to go shopping on eBay or Amazon, you can click through on those, and that will help us.
All right, so things we learned in the comments this week. It was a good week for comments.
Yes, there's a lot. I could barely keep up.
It was good. It was interesting. So, there was an anonymous person that came on, and it's always good to hear this. They were like, I quit my job, and I started to sell on eBay, and I'm having a hard time making a full-time income.
Right.
And, they said that, that they just can't seem to make their numbers work.
Yeah.
And, and they said, well, and the problem is I'm not making enough to pay bills, and because of that, I don't have enough money to invest in more inventory.
Right.
And it was good. Everyone kind of started giving...
People gave great advice.
And some of it is like, don't quit your job until
right
you
away.
either have a big enough nest egg to cover you while you're building up your store, or, these are ways to get cheap inventory. And that's like,
right.
Going to bag sales,
right.
like being more strategic in where you're buying your inventory.
Look on Craigslist's free section, go on Free Cycle.
Someone I mentioned too, like looking in your own network of people and looking for people who are trying to downsize and sell their stuff.
Right. Do like a commission thing.
Those are ways to do it. Like I have a friend in LA who is kind of got hurt, doesn't want to get a full-time job, and we've kind of encouraged him to sell on eBay, and the way we sell on eBay just doesn't work for him because he's got like a little apartment and a family. Yeah. So he actually reached out to family, and I remember one of his family members has an old collection of pipes, of like smoking pipes, and so he's selling his family members' pipes. He's selling them for like $900 and $300.
Pipes are huge right now,
and so he's splitting that. But for him, that means that he's not having to get inventory, and he's making money quickly.
Right.
So
it's a really good example.
And then I remember we've been talking too about being as motivated for eBay, and someone was like tell me exactly. It was Kate. It was saying, how do I focus? And do I have to do to list consistently? And it just reminds me of
my dad.
As your father, and we laugh about it. He's like a contractor,
a carpenter,
handyman guy, and he came a couple of years ago when we were redoing that farmhouse, and he laid down a floor for us,
an entire downstairs floor
where we had scavenged all these old heartwood pine boards from another building.
Yeah,
and he had this job of having to solve all these problems of how does he get these old boards to fit.
Yeah,
and I remember he does this thing where he starts talking to himself. Okay, just do it. Okay,
just do it. Do the measurement.
Grab one board and just start doing it. And he's talking to himself.
He's not talking to me.
Like he's psyching himself up. And he's not joking. Like he's really talking to himself. But we laugh about it, but it's so true. I mean, I kind of do that. It's myself when, you're in your office doing your thing and I'm over here with a big pile that has been there and I got to take pictures. I'm just like, okay, just get started.
Just do it. Just do it. Yeah.
Just get started with one and do another. And then, like your father, he gets into it. And
he doesn't stop.
He's totally absorbed by the process and he enjoys the problem solving.
Right. It's the starting point.
And for the most part, that's the way I am too.
Yeah. I find that with so many things. Like, I was doing leaf mulching out in the yard yesterday. Was it yesterday? And there were so many leaves, and I was just like, oh, this is going to take forever. And I kept being like, oh, I'll stop. But I just kept going for hours. I was just mulching leaves. And it's once you're in it, you're just it's just zen. You're just doing it, you know?
It was 2 hours.
It was 2 hours. It felt like hours. It felt very long.
Someone on the blog asked about it listing old and used items, and I think the question were things like shoes, like
what?
Like how used can they be? And it sounded like maybe it was a person that just is kind of new. Yeah, I don't know, but maybe just new and just is anyone going to buy this?
Right,
stuff?
Used shoes. What?
And I think the way I answer these things is I think we're successful sales on eBay because we're actually good eBay buyers. So we actually buy a lot of our stuff on eBay. I buy shoes
our own clothes,
on eBay, and so we wouldn't sell anything that we wouldn't buy ourselves, and it's just like buying a used car. There are some cars or shoes or any kind of object where the quality is high enough to where it's still worth something, even though it's got some wear on it. Right. And when we're listing things on eBay, we're just making sure that it passes our test. Yeah. Would I buy this? Right. I might not pay the price we're asking. Right. but I would buy that quality.
Right, exactly. Or that's the look if I were this person, that's the look I would be looking for. An old Carhartt jacket with oil stains on it.
Right.
Yeah, like, yeah, I would buy that, and I do.
I mean, and that's why, we always stress about scavenging objects that are made out of good quality.
Yes.
Not so much, it's not always about its label, although labels are important because that's what people are often searching for. But if it's made out of something quality, leather, wood,
wool,
stone, steel, wool, I mean, it just means it's got quality that even though it's got some kind of wear on it, it's still a valuable piece. And that's why things like you buy at Walmart, they're usually valueless after a year of something being used,
Exactly. So Dan O'Neill's no measurements method.
Yeah, we got to bring it up again
because people keep talking about it.
Very controversial.
He doesn't take measurements on contemporary, I will stress that word, contemporary clothing with tags.
And and this is kind of like the argument we all had about having a template,
Yes.
Like, there was an argument, you don't need a template on eBay because people don't care about the template. They just care about the photos and just it's whatever the title is, you know. And what, we fought that for a while, and now we don't do a template, and we're like, they were right, we don't need one.
But I think it took time. It was over time. It was like mobile started to be so huge that no one could even see the template properly. So it was like, that wasn't the case in 2008.
Yeah.
So,
well, and Dan, his argument is like when you go to Target, do you bring a tape, its measure and measure anything, or are you just grabbing the large shirt?
The difference is you try it on at Target. That's the immediate thing I thought of.
And that's a counter argument, is that
you can try it on.
Of course I don't have a tape, its measure, because I
just
can try
put it on.
But but I guess to his point though, he's like, and maybe it's works better for a men's clothes, but most guys are like, okay, I'm like a 34, 32, and like that's my pants, and so I don't need to try it on because that's just what I always wear. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
it's a difficult.
It's for him. It seems to work. Now he was generous enough to actually link to his store, so we could see what he sold. I mean, he's got 5,000 items, and he sells stuff I skip over
all the time,
all day long. It's like super contemporary, like just stuff that's just been made in the past couple of years. Some of them have
contemporary
brands,
clothes.
But just stuff that I would think is cheap, but he's making pretty
money.
Decent prices. Now the only difference for him is he hires out people to photograph and list and stuff. That's why he can have 5,000 items. So I think that solves the problem of being burnt out, because I feel like he's selling the kind of stuff that you can just buy by the bagful. Yeah. Because there's just so much of it.
So much of it, yeah.
But he seems to be doing it.
He does well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I actually reached out to him to see if he wanted to record a conversation. Yeah. It's with us, and maybe we could talk more. Him and his wife actually work together.
Yeah, they work together.
Together, and he's so it might be interesting. We also got another question about how many hours we typically put into eBay. Yeah. And this person, she actually, acknowledged, I know that you travel for work and you have like a side gig and you have a rental, so she understands that. But I guess she was just trying to get a sense of like how many hours we put in every week to keep our store going. Yeah. How would you answer that?
I don't know, because I don't keep track of hours. And the other thing too is like, on days when we have to do rental cleaning, those are just days we can't do eBay. Sometimes we'll try to do it in the morning. Yeah. But like this week, we did maintenance on the house on Monday, and that was all day long. Till 10 in the morning till 5 p.m. We were like zonked. The rest of the week we did eBay, essentially, right? I mean,
so there's different things to it. I mean, there's always having to spend at least a couple hours a day, like packing. So there's always like a maintenance eBay, just like keeping the store going. Right. But as far as putting extra hours in to keep growing the store or adding more inventory, I mean, the way I say it is this: when we do eBay, we do as much as we can.
Yeah.
So it's basically what we do that day.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you could say 8 hours. I don't know. It's really hard to say. And I think we judge not by the time we spend, but by
what we did.
Productivity.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, it's not like, okay, I'm going to put in 8 hours. To me, it's like, okay, I have this pile of items here. By the end of the day, these items will be photographed.
Right.
And descriptions done or something,
Right,
and maybe you'll be like, I have a folder, I'm going to list this
all
folder,
of this, plus this other one, plus I'm taking photos of skirts, or whatever.
Yeah. So it's more about like tasks, being task oriented
and not hour
versus
oriented.
Just time. Yeah. Because like I think about how people, and this might not be true for everyone, but those kind of jobs that you have where you may put in 8 hours of time.
Yeah.
But like, if you really look at how much you got done,
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, there are some jobs where people don't get a whole lot done. They're just like putting in time, and, or they do spurts. Like, this project has to get done. That project's done now. Today, I'm just like on Facebook all day.
Yeah.
So again, I think time isn't the way to its measurement. It's about
It's about productivity.
Right. And when you run your own business, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like, things got to get done. So did I do that thing?
Exactly.
Maybe it only took me an hour, but I got that thing done, and that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's answer some questions. Now, you can always call us to ask a question or leave a comment. The phone number is 540-407-8486.
Hey guys, I love your podcast. It was super awesome. Quick question. When y'all started, did you get insurance, like a product liability insurance? I'm a paranoid person, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh man, it's going to be like $800. I don't know if it's worth it. It's just we own our own home, and I'm like, oh, what if something happens? So I just wondered, I know you all do Amazon, so you probably have one now, but when you started, did you get one? Thanks. You have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so we get this question from time to time, and really our answer is call up your insurance agent and ask. This is what we did. So we live in a small town. We love it because we can know everyone we deal with. So we have our insurance agent that we can go to.
We just go to his office,
So when we we got homeowners insurance and car insurance.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And then we were like, we work at home, all of our inventory's at home, can we get some kind of insurance to cover this? And he says, and he had us explain what we do. And we were like, well, we buy stuff and sell it on eBay. And he's like, well, how much is it worth? And we're like, well, our inventory, if we sold it all, is probably worth $200,000.
And he was like,
okay, we could get insurance on that, but you'll need documentation for how much it's worth. And we're like, well, it actually, we only bought it for maybe $10,000.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe that much.
And so then it starts getting, he's like, well, they'll only cover for what you paid for it. And we're like, well, we don't have receipts for some of it because it's at yard sales.
Yeah.
And then it just became confusing. And he wanted to try and help us. But at the end of the day, the amount of money we would pay in whatever insurance he could figure out would not be worth it.
Yeah.
And then, people also have this thing about, I guess, wanting some kind of liability insurance. So if you sell someone a shirt and then they wear the shirt and the shirt catches on fire and then they sue you, I mean, again, we don't have any of that too, and you can talk to other people about it, but we aren't really worried about that.
You should decide for yourself what makes sense and talk to your agent, your insurance agent. Again, it's just like when we talk about, that was a hat that sold. Right. It's just like when we talk about taxes. You need to figure out what works best for your business and talk to your accountant about it.
Yeah, and I think I'd be very curious to see if any eBay person has some kind of
liability.
It's liability insurance, and if there's any kind of court case where someone's been sued because they've sold some old vintage thing on eBay.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. It's Vince with Cash from Closet from Colorado. I just had to pause in my morning commute. I was listening to you guys, one of your podcasts, and I'm catching up on some of them. And Jay, you were saying that, all week long you've been rising at the crack of 10 a.m. because you guys got back from one of your trips. And just been catching up on sleep. And I have a wonderful job, and I'm so blessed to have it. Excited to make eBay work even better for me than it already is, and you guys are helping me get that done. But what a motivating thing to hear as I'm driving to my 8 to 5 job, a little more than that. And like I said, glad to have it, happy to have it until eBay can replace it. But it just made me laugh. You were saying you're sleeping until 10, and that would just be so amazing. So the lifestyle that you guys describe is just awesome and motivates me day by day to get going and keep going. And one of the things that I did just yesterday by one of your tips is I hadn't been by a thrift store that's on my way home in quite a while. And I just, sometimes I find great stuff there and sometimes I just don't. I thought, sometimes you guys always say, get on by there and there might be something good. I had about a half hour, so I went by, and right there on the door of the thrift store was a sign that said, today only, 75% off furniture, lamps, and art. And I thought, what? I said, it's the end of the day. Everything's been picked over. There's nothing. I went in there and I just cleaned them out. I think I spent about $40 and I got about 40 items, including a mid-century modern, sorry, I'm paying attention to traffic, mid-century modern magazine rack, all wood, gorgeous, art, big-time art, all kinds of lamps, an LL Bean lamp, a couple of very vintage lamps, very wonky stuff, and just, they couldn't believe the carts that I was loading up, and just towards the end of the day, $40 because I stopped by half an hour, saw their sign, they don't post it anywhere else, and I just wouldn't have done that if it hadn't been a tip from you guys to check in on places now and then, squeeze it into your life, make it happen. But I am looking forward to sleeping until 10 a.m., even one weekday. I will celebrate that. Thank you guys. You're amazing, and I really appreciate you. Goodbye.
So again, we really appreciate that, the comment and it's not really a question.
Right.
It's more about confirmation that, that is really one of the perks, one of the biggest perks of selling full-time on eBay is that we can choose when we wake up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
it's huge. It sounds like such a small thing, and people we always joke about it, no alarm clock. But it's so great.
Yeah. I mean, really, the level of stress in our lives is pretty low, and even when we have a quiet week on eBay, I'm always really grateful because it's still allowing me to live the kind of life I have. And sometimes we'll sleep till 10, and then sometimes I'll wake up at 7 o'clock.
Right,
and it really, that's a great thing is we just let our bodies tell us what we want to do.
Yeah.
Although the best, and I do this often lately. It's like I'll wake up at 6.
Yeah.
And I'll just lie in bed.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll be sleeping.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes I'll be awake.
And I'll just read the news on my phone, and then I'll fall back asleep, and then wake up again. And that's like the best sleep.
Oh man.
It's like the falling back, like that hour extra sleep.
Good afternoon. My name is April. My name on YouTube is called Making Moves. If you guys ever have a live chat and see me in there, I had 2 questions. First, I want to say I love your videos. My first question is, how long did it actually take you all to start scaling up your business enough to be comfortable enough to actually quit your job? I've been reselling for about 6 months. Everything is going well, but I'm trying to scale up, and it's taking me a little longer than I expected. But I'm learning so much from your YouTube videos and other YouTubers. The information is unlimited. Question 2 is, how do you detect whether or not when you're picking out your rugs, whether or not it's wool? A lot of the rugs that I see don't have tags and don't have labels on it, like at certain estate sales or thrift stores or wherever I go and see rugs. I really can't detect. I didn't know whether or not that came with experience over the years or what have you. Thank you guys so much. You guys have been really played a really big part in my life as far as reselling is concerned, and I appreciate your informative videos. You guys have been doing a great job. Thank you so much. Bye.
So the first question is, how long did it take for us to kind of have a big enough store, I guess, to make enough income to be able to feel comfortable with not having outside work?
Right.
Really, for us, it was like 2 years.
Yeah, and like we talk about all the time, we weren't just like, we're just doing eBay, everything put
Yeah, I mean,
we
talked about this, like, we never actually thought eBay could be a full-time income. We just saw it as, like, kind of extra cash. And then slowly we started realizing the more we enlisted and the better stuff we could scavenge, the more money we were making. And then we just saw list more, make more money. So it took us 2 years. And I've said it before, when we hit about 500 items in our inventory, we were able to average, gross about $2,000 a month. And that was about what we needed to cover our bills. So, that's obviously won't work for everyone. I mean, we were selling clothes and shoes and other things. Yeah. So we seem to have the right kind of mix. And this is back in 2010 or something. Yeah. So, that's really how we always say, is figure out how much money you need to make sure you get your bills down as low as possible. And then once you have that, your burn rate, I guess, then figure out how much do you need to sell at your store to make that money.
Now, the second question about rugs. Now, it does come with experience, feeling wool rugs and knowing, by touch, like that's rug. I mean, that's wool. But, there are some really good fakes out there. So it's hard to tell when something's acrylic and it's kind of a scratchy acrylic. You're like, I can't tell. So if it's a low enough priced item and you like the way it looks and you think it'll sell, you should buy it. And you can take a little strand and do a burn test. We can link to how, if you just Google burn test video fabric, you'll see how to do it. And that's how you tell if it's definitely wool or a natural fabric.
And something I always recommend for people to do this. If you live in any like urban area or even town, you'll have like an Oriental rug store.
Yeah, or a Persian rug store. I don't think Oriental's the correct word anymore, although people still use it.
It's there'll be that rug store, and it's really often very expensive, and you can go in there and just ask. Yeah. And most likely, if they're friendly at all, they'll show you around and they'll show
what's
you
wool, what's acrylic,
what's silk, what's wool. Yeah. They'll kind of tell you about patterns and help you kind of see if something's handmade or if it's machine made. Most business people want to share their knowledge because you might be a future customer too.
Yeah, exactly. So again, with experience, or if stuff is labeled, then you can say, okay, this is what a wool hand-knotted rug looks like, and keep it in your head.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Kari calling. I've called you guys before. Anyway, I have a question for you. I'm finally getting around to listing. Over the summer, I purchased a lot of different Persian and Oriental carpets. And anyway, I'm trying to calculate shipping, and I'm wondering how you ship those if you use FedEx Ground, because some of them are pretty heavy. And looking online, it looks like a lot of sellers charge just like a flat $29.95, and I've noticed a lot of people do free shipping because it's a larger ticket item. So I'm just wondering what you guys do for shipping on that. And I also just wanted to say to you guys, thank you very much for all of your shows and your podcasts, and also for not making people feel stupid when they ask questions. There are a lot of people like me that are fairly new at this, and I just had an experience this morning where I left a question on one of the online Facebook groups, and the answers were pretty obnoxious and snarky and made me think I'm never going to ask a question there, like a legitimate question. So thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate, and I know many people appreciate your podcasts. I've also been getting together with the group of people in Everett, Washington that Dan has, that you've announced Dan has organized. And anyways, thanks for that. And hopefully you guys will continue with your podcasts and videos and all of that. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, yes, another rug question, another good rug question. Yes, on some of the bigger ones, I generally give the people a choice. I will weigh it and measure what I think it will be if it fits in a box or if it has to get rolled up. One of the last rugs I shipped, I had to roll it up and it was going to, I think it was like Georgia from Virginia. So I rolled it up, double wrapped it in super thick plastic and taped the heck out of it. And I believe the cheapest option for that one, crazy enough as it is, was USPS priority. So you really never know what the cheapest is because priority gets cheaper with the bigger and the closer you are, your state is to that person. So what I do is I give people a choice. I put FedEx Ground, Parcel Post, and Priority as options. And that's the cool thing about eBay. You can just say, calculated, here are your choices, pick the one you want.
And then it just calculates automatically based on our zip code and their zip code.
Yeah, and the weight and the size.
Now, don't you also just take poly mailers and just cut them up and just like make an envelope?
Yeah, so actually, for that particular rug, what I did was I wrapped it in a super thick garbage bag, wrapped it in tape, and then took, it actually ended up being 3 poly mailers and taping it around it just for extra protection. And the person got it, left me positive feedback. It was fine.
Yeah.
So that's how I did that one. Although I shipped a rug that was able to be folded up because it was a thin wool rug and shipped it to the UK through Global Shipping Program. And no, actually it wasn't Global Shipping. They don't do Global Shipping Program for rugs, I don't think. It was USPS Priority, and I put that in a box because it's going, international.
And just real quick, your comment about, there's a lot of people that sell rugs and it's free to ship. I mean, we've actually bought some rugs on eBay like that, and I love that they do free shipping. But I think they're crazy.
They're losing money.
I think very often those are the people, it's like the companies that are the importers, and they're selling large amounts of rugs.
Yes.
So I think their margins they're willing to accept much smaller.
Yes.
Look, I love free shipping, but for us, we sell 100 to 200 items a month. I mean, we can't eat that much cost.
So those guys, when you see free shipping for like an $80 wool runner rug, it's because those guys have like 500 of those to sell, not one unique antique vintage rug. So don't be afraid to charge shipping.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. My name is Anna, and I'm a seller on eBay. And my question is, do you guys include a packing slip with each item that you sell, or do you think that's just a waste of paper? I'm really curious to know your answer. I love your show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, yes. I include a packing slip. I formatted it on eBay. You can custom format the invoice to include your address, their address, and then a little invoice. And I actually started doing that after we interviewed Matt, who is an eBay seller and he works at the post office, because he said, if something's wrong with your label, something gets messed up with the label, the post office will open it up and look for an invoice. And way back in the day when my mom would ship stuff before eBay or whatever, she would always write people's address on a piece of paper in the box, and I never knew why, and now I know why, for extra, protection. So I do print out the eBay invoice with the address and the information. I think it's more professional. I hadn't done it for years, and I think I started doing it last year. I don't think it's a waste of paper. I bought a huge lot of printing paper from this thrift store. They had some closeout from an office store, and the guy looked at me like I was crazy. He's like, why would you need that much paper?
It was literally 4 boxes full,
huge,
tens of thousands of sheets of paper.
So much paper. And I was like, I'll never have to buy paper again, which isn't true because I print out a lot.
And also, just if you remember too, if you don't have a laser printer,
right,
you should get one.
Yes.
You should, if you're trying to do eBay with an inkjet printer, yeah, you're crazy because you're spending so much money on ink.
Oh, God, no.
Get a laser printer that it uses like it's graphite drums, the toner.
Yeah.
And we made a video on how to refill the toner.
And I'll tell you, we use the Brother laser printer. It's on our resources page. We love it. It kicks butt.
You can print thousands of pages.
I've been printing for years on this thing, and I've, replaced the toner a bunch.
What, like every 3 months or what?
Yeah, like every 3 months, I would say. And I buy cheap toner, powdered toner, and I do it myself.
Costs what, $8 or something?
Yeah, it's like $8 for a thing. But like that lasts so long. It lasts like a year. So anyway, get a laser printer. I love it.
Forget it.
Just forget it.
Okay, that's all the questions we had today. Obviously, you can call us, but you can also go to our blog at scavengerlife.com and leave a comment or question there. Either us or someone will immediately comment or answer.
Immediately.
And you'll get information faster.
You can call us to leave a question or a comment. The number again is 540-407-8486, and I have memorized that.
Very good.
And a lot of people will say, "Oh, we wish you had more content during the week." I'm hoping this week that I will get an interview up on Friday. We do have the other podcast. I'm posting another podcast at shampooandbooze.com about our Airbnb business this week as well, tonight.
Yep. And the interview is the one I did with
Resale
John.
Rabbit.
Yep. And he's a young guy that his thing is he travels around.
Yeah.
And buys stuff at thrift stores and mails it into Amazon
really
FBA.
Cool.
So I always love to learn about its different ways to do things. So
yeah.
Come back for that. All right. Have a good week, and hopefully your sales will be good.
Lots of sales.
Yep.
Yay.
This podcast is ending in
3, 2, 1.
2, 1.
0. Bye.